Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Bitcoin for Ranchers webinar series. Today marks the final of 4 webinars offering basic Bitcoin education to bridge the gap between sound health and sound money for a sound future. This webinar will be no more than 60 minutes long and will include a question and answer session for any attendees at the end. For those of you that have missed the previous 3 webinars, I'd just like to quickly reintroduce myself and my co-host. My name is Bitcoin Q&A. I am Head of Support and Education at Foundation Devices. And presenting with me today is Lily, our Head of Business Development. How's it going, Lily?
Hey Q&A, doing well. Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
So before we get started with today's content, I think it's worthwhile to have a real quick recap on what we've covered in the last 3 weeks worth of webinar series. And obviously, if you're viewing this as the first webinar, I'd urge you to go back and watch the first 3 first, because we do lay down some foundational knowledge there based on what we're about to talk about today. So week 1, we covered off the absolute basics. What is Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin's important, and the different ways in which that you can acquire Bitcoin. In week 2, we started to explore the topic of self-custody, why self-custody is important. Well, it's more than important, it's absolutely paramount in terms of Bitcoin. And then we started to look at the different self-custody methods. So we looked at the different types of wallets that you can have, ranging from mobile wallets all the way up to super secure hardware wallets, which we're going to be talking about today in some more depth. Week 3, we talked about actually using Bitcoin as a tool. So we talked about the different ways in which that you can transact with Bitcoin, how you can leverage Bitcoin for your business, and also we explored some more advanced topics like the Lightning Network and Bitcoin privacy. So now that we've got the Bitcoin basics and the theory side of things covered, it's time to look at putting those skills and knowledge into practice so that you can actually take custody of your Bitcoin, so that you can leverage all of the super sovereign properties that we've covered in the past 3 weeks. Now, of course, we're going to I'm just going to mute your microphone, Adam. So we're going to cover off the topic of sovereign security and really putting those principles into practice, and we're going to do that through of course, the foundation lens, which is where Lily and I work. And basically, this is what we do day to day. The tools, the products, and the software that we build each and every day are designed to make people like you have a much easier time, so that you can self-custody your Bitcoin securely, but also so that you don't have to spend hours and hours out of your day trying to figure this stuff out. We do all of that hard legwork for you, and we're going to demonstrate that for you today. So there's 4 basic topics that we're going to cover off today. We're going to give you an intro into Passport. We're going to tell you exactly what Passport is and why we think Passport is great. And we're also going to do exactly the same for Envoy, our mobile companion app. Then we're going to take you through all of the steps required to setting up Passport, our flagship hardware wallet. And then finally, we're going to show you how you can combine the two to leverage a really powerful but simple self-custody solution for your Bitcoin. Anything to add there, Lily, before I get cracking with the slides?
No, cover it. Let's get started.
Let's go. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. What the hell is a Passport? So Passport is our flagship hardware wallet. Passport has one main goal, and that is to keep your Bitcoin safe and secure from any attackers, theft, loss, anything like that. So we do that by using, essentially, Passport is an air-gapped hardware wallet. So what the hell is an air-gap? The clue is kind of in the name, really. We enforce a physical gap between Passport and any other devices, namely internet-connected devices, and we do that for security. So there's no way for Passport to talk to the outside world by things like Bluetooth, USB cables, or anything like that may expose an attack surface that could compromise the device. Passport stores all of its secrets on something that's called a secure element, which is essentially just a super secure chip that stores all of the secrets, that makes it very, very difficult for somebody, even if they had really a lot of time exposed physically with the device, to extract those secrets would be nigh on impossible. And there's been no public track record yet of that actually happening, which is paramount for a device that's potentially storing your life savings. So as I touched on, Passport's got 0 wireless comms, no Bluetooth, no NFC, nothing like that would expose any secrets to potential attackers. Passport operates with a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, so you don't need to have it permanently plugged in all the time. You can charge it up once and it's going to last for hours and hours and hours, so you don't need to worry about fumbling for a charge cable every time that you want to use it. Now, Passport communicates with the outside world via the use of QR codes that it displays on screen to pass information back into different software wallets. And then it also communicates with those software wallets to ingest information via its onboard camera, which is on the back of the device. That's how it communicates with the outside world. Passport secures, you can do backups on Passport that are encrypted so that you are able to have some redundancy. So let's say that you set your Passport up. Again, I'm going to show you how you can do that later. And then one of your kids drops it down the toilet. Well, with our encrypted micro SD card backups, if the device is lost, then your Bitcoin is not lost with it. So it's a simple but secure way of having some redundancy there, whilst not compromising on making things too difficult to back up. And finally, everything that we do in terms of hardware and software is completely open source. So anybody is free to go onto our website and they can look at the electronic schematics for this. They can look at the code that runs on the device. They can look at the design files that are used to make the device look as good as it does. And they're free to go and build their own if they have the know-how to do so. So we pride ourselves on making sure that we do everything out in the open, because ultimately our aim is that people are going to secure significant amounts of wealth on our devices. And we believe that people shouldn't trust a device that's built in a walled garden that has lots of trade secrets on it. So we do everything out in the open, and anybody that has the technical know-how can go and scrutinize any aspect of our device. So why do we think that you should use Passport? So we have touched on why Passport is secure. We have that physical air gap around the device that maintains and makes physical attack very, very difficult. But to take things a step further, we also we have a pin protection on the device. We also ship the device with a function called supply chain validation. So we store a little secret on the device when it leaves before it leaves the factory, and then you can scan a QR code when you set the device up to validate that with our internal server to check that, let's say, the postman hasn't fiddled with your device in transit. And that you can check that it hasn't been altered since it left our factory. Obviously, we have a very intuitive user interface, and I'm going to show you some more on that later. And we also pride ourselves on making sure that Passport is compatible with every single possible software wallet on the market today. So if you buy a hardware wallet, Passport, from us, you don't have to use it. We don't dictate what software you have to use it with. You're free to go and choose your own. We do not believe in walled gardens at Foundation. Once you buy that device off us, that could be the final time you ever deal with us. You're free to go and use any other wallet you like. But of course, we do offer Envoy, which is our easy option. Again, I'll be showing you how you can use that later. So we talked in week number 3 about single and multi-sig, and of course Passport is capable of doing either of those. You can also add an optional passphrase to the device to add that extra layer of protection. We also talked in week 3 of the webinars about accounting systems and how you can use different accounts to segregate your Bitcoin, and Passport and Envoy are really, really good at making that really intuitive, so that if you want an account for your kids' savings and you want a business account to keep your business income in, and then you want a personal account and a private account, super easy to set 4, 5, 6, however many different accounts that you would like. Keep them all segregated but managed with that one device. Another thing that we're really passionate about internally is our design. We like to make sure that our devices aren't just super secure, but they're also a nice piece to look at. They feel good in the hand, and we don't want people to look at them and to be scared of using them. At the end of the day, people, like I keep saying, our hope is that people are going to secure significant amounts of wealth on our secure devices, and we believe that that can be stressful enough as it is, but if we can make that less stressful by making an approachable device that's got a nice user interface, then that's going to make your experience of interacting with your Bitcoin savings all that more pleasurable. So I've talked about Passport, which is our hardware wallet. So I'm just going to briefly touch on what Envoy is. So Envoy is our newly released cross-platform mobile application available on Android and iOS. So all of your typical phones. And it's designed to be, as the clue is in the name, it's a companion app for Passport. So it makes transacting with Passport secure and really simple as well. So Envoy is what we call a watch-only wallet. So it has the ability to monitor the addresses that are controlled by your Passport, but it does not on its own have the ability to spend from them. Obviously, Passport is the secret holder or the key holder. Passport holds all of the authority to authorize spends. Envoy is kind of the monitor that lets you know when you receive transactions, and when you would like to spend the transaction, you can propose that transaction within Envoy, again through that really simple user interface. And then Passport, through the use of QR codes, would be the one that authorizes them. Within Envoy as well, we've also got the functionality to manage your Passport device from the perspective of managing firmware updates. So when we release software updates and firmware updates to benefit you with new features or security patches, Envoy will automatically notify you of them, and it will even download that firmware for you so that you don't even need to mess with any computers to keep your device up to date. And finally, we've got the Learn tab within Envoy, which contains frequently asked questions and loads of different tutorials on how you can use Passport and Envoy together. So if you have a burning question on something that you want to do with Passport or Envoy, you can bet your bottom dollar that there is a tutorial video nestled within that Learn tab that's going to tell you what you need to do. So why should you use Envoy? So again, kind of harks back to what I was talking about with Passport earlier. Envoy's got a really intuitive UI. We built this app from the ground up to be a Passport companion app. We don't cater to any other hardware wallets at the moment anyway. We've designed this purpose-built for Passport to make the setup, the account management, the sending and receiving of Bitcoin, and the securing of your Bitcoin super simple, super intuitive, so that you're not sat there scratching your head how you can do all of that. So yeah, as I was saying, Envoy also allows for firmware update management. So we ship Passport with a micro SD card, and we also ship it with two adapters, one that fits iPhones and one that fits Android phones, so that when you get that notification that your device is due a software update, all you have to do is pop that SD card into the adapter, pop the adapter into your phone, tap update on Envoy. That will automatically download the latest software for your Passport onto the SD card, and then you can pop that SD card into your device and update the firmware. No need to mess with any computers, no need to navigate to any different websites and make sure that you're downloading the right firmware. Envoy takes all of that stress away from you and just does it all for you in a really simple and intuitive UI. And again, as I touched on open source earlier, of course, Envoy, the software, everything is done and developed out in the open. So anybody with the know-how to do so or the will to do so can feel free to go onto our website and scrutinize every single line of our code if they want to do so. So what does it look like to unbox a Passport? So we ship in a standard shipping box, which is just a plain white box, so that there's no clue that there's a Bitcoin related product inside. We believe that's important in terms of your privacy from the shipping companies. There's no branding on the box, and there's also a tamper evidence seal on the box so that you would have a clue if anybody's opened it in transit, which would obviously indicate that the device may have been tampered with. If of course you do order a device from us and that seal looks as though it's been tampered with, please do reach out to us. So inside the box, obviously, you'll get the device, you'll have a quick start guide, you have the removable lithium ion battery. The device is charged by a USB-C charge cable. One important thing to note here, that although the device has a USB-C port on the bottom to charge it, the pins on that port do not allow for any data transfer. So if you were to plug this device, plug the USB cable into the device and plug the cable into your computer, there would be no connection there. It would charge and that was it. You wouldn't be able to pass any data. So that's another one of our security principles, is that even if you do physically plug this device into a computer, you cannot pass any data to it. We also ship with the two USB adapters, the micro SD adapters that I touched on earlier, and an industrial grade micro SD card for performing your firmware updates and or passing transaction details back into across from Envoy. So once you've unboxed it, what does the initial setup look like? So you're going to be asked how you would like to set the device up. Now, of course, we have built this hardware and this software in tandem, so we will try and prompt you to take the Envoy route, because we believe that the Envoy setup route is the easiest and the most straightforward. Again, of course, being open and compatible with all different software wallets. If you choose not to do that, you're absolutely free to do so. So then you'll agree the terms of use, complete the supply chain validation to check that the device has not been tampered with since it left our factory. Then that sounds really complicated, but all it is a simple QR code scan, and it just prevents against something called man-in-the-middle attacks, which is essentially, let's say, a dodgy postman that might be a bit curious as to what's in your parcel. And then you'll set the device with a PIN. So this PIN works exactly the same as it does on your phone. It just prevents unauthorized access to anybody that has physical access to the device. So that might be a nosy sibling or a nosy partner. If they don't know your PIN, they cannot access the device. The next step would be to update the firmware. So once you have unboxed the device, you've gone through those first couple of steps, you would use the adapters and the micro SD card to pop those into your phone. Like I said earlier, Envoy would automatically download the latest firmware for your device. It would recognize that the firmware update is required. You can simply pass that micro SD card back across to Passport, click update, and the device does the firmware update for you. Simple as that. Gone are the days of fumbling around for an adapter cable, finding the right port on your computer, navigating to the right website, making sure that you've got the firmware from the right location. All of that's gone. Envoy does all of that for you. You don't even need to turn on your computer. And once the update is complete, your device will restart and you will then be running the most up-to-date and secure software. So after you've updated the firmware, the next step would be to set up with your seed. So again, seeds are a concept that we talked about in week 3. These are what we commonly refer to as your 12 or 24 words. These are the master backup for your Bitcoin. So in the super unlikely event that Foundation devices ceases to exist, or you lost your device, then your 12 or 24 word seed, or the encrypted version of that, would be how you would recover your Bitcoin into any other wallet that you chose. So you have 3 options, as you can see on screen there. The first option is to create a new seed, and the device is capable of doing that securely for you. You can also have the option of restoring a seed. So if you're migrating to Passport from a different hardware wallet, you would likely already have a 12 or 24 word seed that you would be bringing with you. And of course, we allow you to import that into Passport so that you can manage that existing wallet. And then finally, you have the option to restore from the encrypted backup file that I alluded to earlier. So the encrypted backup file, again, could be from a previous Passport. So you might be migrating from our Founders Edition or first device and bringing the encrypted backup with you. Or you may be migrating from a device that operates with a similar encrypted backup file. And that would be contained on a micro SD card. So once you've done your seed creation, if you're restoring a seed or if you're creating a new one, Passport will then prompt you to create an encrypted backup, a fresh one. So this encrypted backup, again, as the clue is in the name, it is encrypted, and the password to decrypt this, or to sort of open the encryption on that password, is now a 20-digit code. So what you would do is pop your micro SD card into the device. Passport would show you the code. You can see an example on screen there. So that would be the code that you would use to decrypt that in either the current device or any future devices that you use. And then it would save and encrypt that to the micro SD card. So the beauty of having an encrypted SD card backup is number one, an SD card is an item that you would see every day. It's not, you don't look at you don't look at a micro SD card and think Bitcoin straight away. So this is something that you could just pop in a safe at home. You could even pop it in a drawer at home, as long as you keep that 20-digit backup code separate to it. So you could write that in a notebook. Then anybody that discovers the SD card, unless they have that code as well, it's kind of useless to them. And equally, anybody that discovers the code, unless they have the corresponding micro SD card, then they also can't access your Bitcoin. So it's a really nice way of kind of hiding your Bitcoin backups in plain sight. And you can also make multiple copies as well. So you might want to keep an encrypted backup at your house. You might want to keep one in a safety deposit box at the bank or at your mother's house. The world's your oyster as to where you would potentially want to keep one of those micro SD card backups. And of course, advanced users might choose to manually write down their seed words as well. So we've initialized the device, we've set it with a pin, we've updated the firmware, and we have created our first seed. So what do we do next? Well, the next step is to pair it with Envoy so that we can transact. So this is a really simple step, and this is where Envoy really starts to shine. So what we would do on Passport is indicate through the menu system that we want to pair with Envoy. Passport will then show a series of animated QR codes. Again, you can see an example on screen there. Envoy on your phone would scan that QR code, and that's literally it. That is the connection successful. And then the final step would be to validate a receive address. So as you can see on screen there, there's an option to, once the connection is done, Envoy will show a receiving address where you would receive Bitcoin to, and Passport will then be prompted to scan that address just to verify that the connection went successfully. And this is also a mitigation against the fact that you may potentially have downloaded, let's say, a dodgy copy of Envoy from, let's say, a spurious app store somewhere. That's what the address verification is for. So Passport being your secure offline device that can't talk to the internet, scanning that QR code, it will verify, yep, that's correct. So once we've done those simple steps, we are ready to transact. So just as a very quick recap as to the roles and responsibilities of both Passport and Envoy. So Envoy will display receive addresses. Envoy monitors for incoming transactions to those receiving addresses. Envoy, after you've received, can propose spend transactions to any other Bitcoin address or person that you want. And Envoy does not manage any private information. Passport is able to verify receiving addresses that Envoy shows. Passport will verify the spends that Envoy proposes. Passport will also authorize those spends, and Passport is the keeper of all of your private information and all of your Bitcoin secrets, if you like. So that's the clear distinction between the two, and they work beautifully in tandem with one another. And I think we've done an absolutely excellent job, even if I do say so myself, in terms of how we've simplified all of those steps, because some of those terminologies of inbound transactions and authorize and verify all sound really scary, but when you actually put this into practice, and you'll see that in a video in a sec, we've simplified it to make things really approachable. So we've done the whole setup. That was really easy. How do we receive Bitcoin? You'll see a distinct lack of text on this screen, and that's because the steps are really, really simple. All you need to do is choose the account that you want to receive into, hit receive, and then you'll be met with a QR code on screen. Sorry, I'm just muting the new entrant. You'll be met with a QR code on screen, and then you would just send Bitcoin to that address. So that might be your friend sending you some Bitcoin if they're feeling kind. That might be you withdrawing from an exchange, buying from an ATM, receiving Bitcoin from a customer. Wherever it's coming from, all you have to do, choose the account, hit receive. That's it, job done. Envoy will then monitor that address, and as soon as there is an incoming transaction, it'll pop up and say, yep, you've got X amount of Bitcoin on its way to you. Super simple. So sending, there's a couple more steps involved with sending because obviously we need Passport to authorize that send. So I've done a quick video demonstration of that and I'm just going to talk you through that very quickly on the next slide. I'm just going to pause before I do that and check that my audio is still coming through okay and that there's no technical issues.
Yes, you sound good.
Perfect. Okay, right, I'll hit play on the video and then I'll talk you through everything that's going on. In fact, let me rewind. So before I hit play, obviously we've got Passport on the right, and on the left we have one of our accounts that has received multiple transactions, and that's the account that we're going to spend from. So in Envoy, I've just opened the account and I'm going to hit send. So in this screen, let me just take it back. In this screen, we've got three options. We're going to populate the receive address of the recipient of whoever I'm going to spend to. Then I'm going to use the numbers to populate how much I want to send to them. I do have the option at the bottom of the screen here to send the full balance of the account if I wanted to empty the whole account to the recipient address, and then I'm going to press next. So off screen, I'm just scanning a QR code of a receive address that I'm going to send to. There, it's populated at the top. Then I'm going to enter how much I want to spend. Then I'm going to press continue. So on this screen, this is the fee screen. So we've got the summary of the address that we're going to send to. We also have the amount that I've just dictated that I want to spend, and then we have two options. I've got the standard fee setting, which estimates that the transaction will confirm in 60 minutes. Or if I'm in a hurry, I've got the boost setting, which will cost me a little bit more, but will confirm in 10 minutes. And then I press confirm. So Envoy now is showing a series of animated QR codes. Now these series of animated QR codes represent the unsigned transaction. So this is kind of like I've written a check, but it's not signed by the right person essentially. So this is where Passport comes in to read that QR code, to interrogate the information on it and check that it's all everything is present and correct, and then it will be able to authorize it. So let's just watch that. So on Passport there, I just click sign with QR code. And then I'm going to use the camera on Passport to scan the QR code from Envoy. And then Passport has popped up there, it's read the information, and it's now displaying the information that I've just populated over on Envoy. So we've got the amount that's going to be sent, and then the destination address that I've populated. Then it's going to show the change amount. So this would be the equivalent to me going to buy some gum from a store for $1 and handing over a $10 bill to the clerk. I'm going to get $9 in change. Bitcoin works in exactly the same way. Then it's going to tell me how much the network fee is going to cost me. So that's just the transaction processing cost. Then it's going to ask me if I would like to sign the transaction. So I'm going to click yes. Passport will authorize the transaction, and then it's going to show its own series of animated QR codes. And then over on Envoy, I'm going to do the scan back the other way. So with my phone, I'm going to scan the signed transaction. So this is the signed check now. Envoy is going to read that information, and then it's going to send that off to the Bitcoin network, and that's it. Transaction broadcast. Super simple. You see the confirmation on the bottom of the screen there, transaction sent. And in a couple of seconds, we should see that on the phone. There we go. That is awaiting confirmation. So that's it. It's just a couple of QR code scans, and we've sent our first Bitcoin transaction. Super simple again. So we've set Passport up. We have updated the firmware. We've received some Bitcoin and we've sent some Bitcoin. Now we've decided that we might want to leverage the multiple account system so that we can segregate our funds for different purposes, all whilst managing them with one master secret, or essentially just one device. So on Passport, again, we've made that really easy because we know people want to segregate their Bitcoin for different purposes. All you would need to do is come across to the right hand menu, choose add account, give it a name and a number, and that's it. Scan the QR, and then you would just need to pair that with Envoy. So after you've added the account, Envoy will want to scan the QR code in the exact same way that we just seen before, and then you'll have multiple accounts on Passport and Envoy. Again, that was a lot of words, so I'm just going to show you a video of doing exactly that. Again, I'll talk you through it. So in this example, we're going to use this account to segregate our exchange bought KYC sats. So over on Envoy, I'm following the instructions. On Passport, I'm going to elect that I'm going to pair the wallet to Envoy. Envoy will then, Passport will then show the QR code, which is the pairing information. Envoy will scan it, read the information, and that's it. We've connected that first account. We can then do that optional validate receive address, which is going to open Passport's camera. We can scan the QR code from Envoy. Passport's going to check and validate it. There we go, we can see the confirmation on screen, and that's it, first account paired. So for any subsequent accounts after that, it's exactly the same process. You would just repeat that for the next account and so on and so forth, and there's absolutely no limit to the amount of accounts. So if you've got 25 kids, you can have an account for each and every one of them, and then have one for your business and one for your husband and one for your wife, etc., etc. There's absolutely no limit. The sky is literally your limit in terms of how many different ways that you might want to segregate your Bitcoin, all under that single account. So that was a whistle-stop tour of using Passport and Envoy. We are working hard to expand the feature set in the coming weeks and months, and we've got lots of great things which I'd love to be able to talk about now, but the boss would probably shoot me if I let the cat out of the bag on some of them. But we feel like we've really got the basic functionality. Our aim was to make self-custody with a super secure hardware wallet and a mobile companion app super simple, with good defaults, nice levels of privacy that doesn't hurt your brain when you try to interact with them. So just want to say thank you to everybody that's come along and listened, even if you're watching these back after the fact. I know they've all been published on the Beef Initiative website. For anybody that's watching these that kind of wants to dig a little bit deeper, there's a couple of resources here on screen that I just want to kind of point you to for those that would like to delve a little bit further. So the first is our documentation website. Every single aspect of a Passport and Envoy is documented on there in great detail. So that'll be at docs.foundationdevices.com. We've also got our blog, and we also have our YouTube channel. So all of the tutorial videos that I alluded to earlier are all uploaded onto our YouTube. Finally, we also have our one-on-one concierge onboarding, which is hosted by myself. So if you do purchase a Passport and you've watched all these webinars and it's still not just clear enough for you, and you think that you would benefit from some one-on-one tutoring to set up the device to do your first transaction, then we offer that service for a small fee. So if that's something that you would like to explore, feel free to head over to our website. You can learn more about that and book yourself a one-on-one session with myself. Obviously, we have our email address, hello@foundationdevices.com, for any questions, potential questions about the device, Envoy, or just in Bitcoin in general. Feel free to reach out to us. We also have, my personal website, bitcoiner.guide, which talks more broadly about all aspects of Bitcoin. Lop.net is another great wide-ranging resource hub for anything Bitcoin related. And finally, Bitcoin for Everybody. Those are some really great resources for those that want to dig a little bit deeper. Lily, is there any other resources that you spring to mind before we sign off for the final webinar?
No, I think you covered all the basics. I just want to add that anyone can DM myself or Q&A on Twitter.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for accompanying me for these 4 webinars as well, Lily. Been really enjoyable, and I hope that everybody watching back to these gets some value out of them, and hopefully they stand the test of time. And hopefully it pushes them to take the plunge on their self-custody. And the cherry on the icing on the cake would be if they were to do that with Passport and Envoy. Hopefully we've demonstrated how easy that is for even the absolute beginners to get to grips with. So yeah, I just want to sign off by saying thank you everybody for listening and watching these webinars. And if you have any questions, like Lily said, feel free to reach out to us via any of the methods that we have spoken about across the 4 webinars. Cheers, guys.